Hey Frag fam, what's going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to the Fragrance Well. For today's video, we're going to focus on some more spring fragrances. With this one, a little bit of an emphasis on what I'm going to call heavier spring fragrances. And basically what that means is these are fragrances that can certainly work in the springtime, in my opinion at least, but they have a little bit more weight to them than say maybe the stuff that's a little bit more citrus oriented or maybe a little bit more floral oriented, particularly the fresher floral nature, maybe a little bit less, maybe not so focused on fresh green like notes and fragrances. They may have that, but they may have it to a heavier degree, but they're also still light enough to work in springtime. Many would probably say that these are going to be good for like the evening time in spring, say when, the temperature actually is still dropping to a somewhat cooler temperature at night. Even here in Florida, we're in the middle of spring. We're having some somewhat warmer days here and there, but once that sun goes down, it's still getting a little bit cool at night. So maybe these are fragrances that could be good for that time frame, up to how you want to use them. But these are what I'm going to call heavier spring fragrances, and I've got 8 of them. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like this content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, to kick it off, we're gonna go with one from Goldfield and Banks, and this is gonna be Purple Suede. Goldfield and Banks Purple Suede. So, as the name implies, this is a leathery fragrance. If you've heard me talk about it, I like to call this the blueberry lavender leather fragrance. Why? There is some Tasmanian lavender in here, which I am interpreting as a much fruitier take on the smell of lavender. Not quite the green, sometimes spicy, even funky, herbaceous lavender you typically may get from some French lavender sometimes, depending on how it's used or where else it might have come from. I interpret this to be kind of fruity, and this one definitely a very heavy suede leather. And what I mean by heavy is it's just at the forefront of the fragrance. However, it's not like a smoky leather, it's not animalic. That being said, there is some slight animalic notes kind of hiding in the background of the scent, accompanied with an overall kind of woody nature to the fragrance. But all that being said, it actually works really, really well on a somewhat warm spring day. I wore it today. It was relatively warm during the daytime. It has gotten cooler out, and I honestly haven't been back outside since it has cooled off, but it wasn't too heavy. Now, I didn't spray it a ridiculous amount of times, but as the fragrance does dissipate, it does get a little bit smoother, and it kind of retains that lavender-like freshness, if that makes sense. So I think this is a good fragrance if you want to wear something with a little bit more weight. In the springtime, this one can work. And the thing about this fragrance, I kind of see it as a good transition fragrance. Not going to be my first choice in the summer. Maybe not something I would jump towards in the winter. So it's kind of a transitional season fragrance. And honestly, I think because it's lavender forward, it works better for spring even more so than it does for fall. So once again, from Goldfield and Banks, this is Purple Suede. All right, guys, next one's coming from Frederick Malle. This is Portrait of a Lady. Frederick Malle, Portrait of a Lady. Popular fragrance. I'm sure many of you have gotten your nose on this before. I'm sure a lot of you actually own it. It is a divisive fragrance. It's very, very strong, very, very forward in what it is. So if you're new to it and you heard about it and you're curious, get your nose on it first, please. Get a sample or go to a store that has it and get your nose on it. But this is a very spicy, very clove-heavy, green, stemmy rose fragrance with a very dry, woody base to it. Oh man, I love the way this stuff smells. It's a very masculine scent in my opinion. Granted, women do wear this scent, but to me, definitely it comes across masculine, but that's neither here nor there, not really the focus of this video. It is a floral scent because the rose is very noticeable. So you could say it's a good spring fragrance, but that heavy amount of spice and the heavy dry woodiness as well as patchouli that is in this fragrance kind of gives you fall time vibes. As far as I'm concerned, it's a good transition fragrance. You can wear it in the fall, you can wear it in the spring, and I'm sure many people want to go for this in the springtime as well because of that rose nature that it has. But it is going to be a heavier springtime fragrance. And if people are going to wear it in the spring, if it's a really hot spring day, it may not be their first choice for the daytime, but it could certainly work at night, especially when it starts to cool off. even if it's a little bit warmer at night, but still springtime, this fragrance can work great. So once again, from Frederick Malle, we've got Portrait of a Lady. All right, moving on. Next one's coming from Nishane, and this is going to be Fan Your Flames. Nishane, Fan Your Flames. So if you're unfamiliar with this scent, this is a tobacco fragrance, very tobacco forward. It's accompanied with a coconut and rum combination, so it kind of puts you in that tropical mindset, maybe even vacation vibes, if you will. Mixing with the tobacco. Tobacco is very leafy and actually rather clean. I don't get a whole lot of smoky nuances from it, but it is blended also with a very dry cedar wood and oak moss like combination, and it is sweetened up quite a bit with kind of a tonka bean feel, if you will. This fragrance here, for me, I would wear it at any time because I just really like the scent that much. Given my Nishane fragrances, that's probably my second largest dent compared to Hassabat, which is half gone. But so, maybe it's a very long distance second, but that's neither here nor there. So I like to wear this fragrance whenever I wear it in the middle of summer. But for most people, they think this fragrance is maybe a little bit too rich for those warmer temperatures. So that's why I say it kind of falls into the springtime narrative, if you will, compared to fall. Probably mostly a fall scent for a lot of people, but you could wear this in spring. It's a heavier spring fragrance. It does have some weight to it. It is quite a powerful scent, in my opinion. And for most people, if they were gonna wear this in the springtime, they would probably opt to wear it at night because it is a powerful, a little bit of a rich fragrance, if you will. So once again, coming from Nishane, this is Fan Your Flames. All right, next one's gonna be coming from Amouage. We have got Portrayal Man. Amouage Portrayal Man. So out of all the Amouage fragrances I've gotten my nose on, other than the raw oil attars, if you will, this one has got to be one of the simplest Amouage fragrances I've gotten my nose on. It certainly is within my cabinet. It's basically violet leaf, juniper, cade juniper, and vetiver. It's a very simple fragrance, yet it carries a good amount of weight to it. The violet leaf does provide kind of an ozonic brightness to the scent, but the cade juniper in here is actually really oily. It's very dense, very heavy. And then the vetiver in here, not smoky. Now, maybe a hint of it, but not overall smoky. More of the clean, grassy, floral kind of vetiver feel. Maybe, I think Java vetiver is like that, or the Haitian vetiver, if I'm not mistaken. That's the vetiver that tends to have that kind of quality. But that's basically the main thing you're getting from this fragrance. This one, absolutely, to me, I would wear it year round, but it kind of has a springtime vibe to it, particularly because of the notes that are here. So even though it does have this kind of bright feeling to it, it's very, very rich in nature. So I would say it's a heavier spring fragrance, because if you run across some other fragrances that maybe share those notes, they tend to be a little bit lighter, in my opinion. Not quite as oily, if you will. This one just has an oily feel to it, which is interesting. If you're a fan of Dior Fahrenheit, then you like how the violet leaf is used in that, you probably might like this one. Doesn't really have the petrol vibe overall, and doesn't have that combination of like spices and woods, but it does have a similar use of violet leaf, and it's much more at the forefront in this fragrance. So once again, from Amouage, this is Portrayal Man. All right, next one is going to be coming from Wilhelm Parfumery, and this is Morning Chess. Wilhelm Parfumery Morning Chess. Now, if you're familiar with the scent or have heard of it, there are going to be some people that say this smells like a Ventus. I get it. It has a similar use of bergamot to a Ventus, but overall the fragrance is not a Ventus. It's not even close. Why? Because you don't really get a pineapple vibe from this. You don't really get a smoky, woody vibe from this. What you get along with that bergamot is a very green galbanum, so that plant resin that can be kind of spicy green. You get that, and then you get leather with it, with kind of this really light woodsy base. So it's a green leather fragrance, and the bergamot is just kind of there to brighten up the overall fragrance. But the bergamot eventually does subside, does evaporate off the skin, if you will, and then you're kind of left with that green leather characteristic that this fragrance has, and it can be interpreted as a little bit of a heavier scent. But overall, I think it's overall good for spring. Maybe not the first choice for summer because of that, because of those characteristics, the green and leather. You don't really associate that with a summer scent, but it could work perfectly for a spring scent. But again, it is a heavier spring fragrance. When you think about a lot of spring fragrances, particularly a lot of the ones I've talked about so far, this one kind of falls into the heavier category because of the leather and heavy green notes that this fragrance has. That being said, out of all the fragrances I've kind of talked about on the list, this one I do think many people would be okay with wearing during the daytime. You wouldn't really consider this an evening scent per se. Granted, it could work for that, but I would say this is a good daytime wear for the spring. So once again, from Wilhelm Parfumerie, this is Morning Chess. All right, this next one's going to be coming from Roja Parfums. This is going to be Danger Parfum. Roja Parfums Danger Parfum. There is a Parfum cologne version of this as well, or should I say there was. I do apologize. This fragrance, along with a number of others from Roja, was recently discontinued to basically make room for newer releases. However, I don't know if you can't get this anymore. This fragrance wasn't like the most popular from this line of fragrances from Roja Parfum, so you might still be able to find a bottle of this. But, I did mean to throw that out there. I actually didn't think about that when I was putting this list together. But all that being said, what is this scent? It's kind of a play on a barbershop fragrance, kind of. It's very lavender forward, uses a lot of lemons, kind of lemon and lavender combination, so a zingy lavender, if you will. And then it is just accompanied with this heavy blend of spices and woody notes. No particular spice really stands out to me. No particular wood actually stands out to me. Maybe a hint of sweetness in there, maybe some amber notes. I almost dropped the cap, sorry. Maybe some amber notes, maybe some musky notes. But lavender and lemon is kind of the main thing my nose picks up. And then, again, just this concoction of spice and woods to complete the fragrance. Does have a gentlemanly characteristic to it. Really does carry some weight to it as well. It's actually a pretty powerful scent from my experience with it, which is why I say it's pretty good for spring. That lavender, that lemon does add a brightness to the scent. The spicy woody combination is not really overly rich, but it has a kind of a bright characteristic, a brighter feel to it. That's why I say it could make a good spring fragrance, but it's going to be a heavier spring fragrance. Another one you can certainly wear in the daytime as well. These type of fragrances tend to be associated with daytime business-based use. So I think this is a good daytime fragrance wear, particularly on cooler spring days if you're going to be outdoors more often. Once again, from Roja Parfums, this one here is Danger Parfum. All right, next one's going to be coming from Mind Games. We're going to go with Scholar's Mate. Mind Games Scholar's Mate. So this one, in my opinion, is pretty much a good transitional season fragrance anyway. So it's good for fall, it's good for spring. What do you get from this? First thing many are going to notice is a little bit of a similarity to Santal 33 from Le Labo, but it's much more aggressive. It's a lot spicier, in my opinion. It has this kind of milky feel. There's like a fig milk note for the fragrance, fig milk characteristic for the scent, and you do get this kind of lactonic feel, heavy on the pimento-like spice, a good amount of vetiver in here that is very, very dry and very, very smoky. So there are some elements that kind of separate it from Santal 33, but all of this does come together to what I would consider a heavy spring fragrance. I'll be honest, this one is probably a little bit better for fall because it's very, very woody in nature. I tend to like to associate woodier fragrances with the fall season and more green fragrances with the spring season. There's not really anything green about this one, but that being said, because Santal 33 for many is a fragrance they wear year round, and this one kind of has a little bit of that characteristic to it, I would say, you know what, it's a good spring wear as well, but it's going to be a heavier one. Very spicy, very woody overall, but certainly could work in the springtime as well, especially on those somewhat cooler spring days. And if you want to wear this in the evening time, it certainly could work for that too. So once again, from Mind Games, this is Scholar's Mate. All right, and last but not least, this one's coming from Christian Provenzano Parfums. This is Massimo. Christian Provenzano Parfums, Massimo. So this one is kind of similar to Mind Games in that overall, I would say it's probably a better fall fragrance, but could certainly work for the spring. You get a very bright cardamom spice combination with this scent. There's probably some cinnamon in here as well, but it seems to be a little bit more cardamom forward, and it's very, very bright in nature. You got some leathery characteristics with this. You got some very heavy incense and resinous characteristics with this scent. It's a little bit woody as well. Mostly incense and resins to kind of make up the base. Has a touch of a smokiness to it, and along with that spice and leather, that's kind of the overall makeup of the scent. And you know what? It's a little bit green too. Kind of has this green feel. I don't know if there's actual green like ingredients in the scent, but all of that kind of comes together and gives this green vibe. And no, I'm not just saying that because the bottle's green. All of that though, it's not overly heavy, if that makes sense. So that's why, you know, it actually is a good transition fragrance. Frankly, I think it could work in the spring too. This is kind of one of those, if you love it, you could wear it any day for anything kind of fragrances, in my opinion. I kind of feel that way about it. And honestly, I think it would work great for the spring because it's not too heavy. And the way the spices and incense all comes together, it has a brightness characteristic to it. So that's why I say it's a good spring wear. But it is going to be considered a heavier one. So once again, from Christian Parmigiano Parfums, this is Massimo. All right, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you have any fragrances that you say are good springtime wears for you, but you would say they have a little bit of weight to them? They're a little bit heavier. You might more so consider them for evening wear, or maybe you consider them for cooler spring days. I would love to see what you guys have to say. If you are familiar with the fragrances I did talk about in this video, let me know your thoughts on them. Do you think they deserve to be on a list like this? Would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way until the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you all in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.